Wake up with me. It's your man, Tresvon Pratt with AIM. Always improving the mind. Man, what is good out there, world? What's happening? I'm excited this morning because I acknowledge challenge and I acknowledge progress, right? And there's no progress without challenge. So, one of the things that let's jump right into it. Let's jump right into it. One of the things that I discuss is empathy. And this word has been another word that has been popularized. It has been popularized, it has been overly used, it's been misused so much that people no longer know what they're talking about when they mention empathy. So now empathy has this ring of softness. It has this era of sensitivity. I had somebody tell me recently that showing empathy is catering to people. And I'm like, man, have you got it wrong? Man, have you gotten it wrong, man? I'm like, yo, that is not empathy. That is not empathy. That is not like I want to say I understand where you're coming from. I want to say I understand where you're coming from, but that's not empathy, dog. So let's clear it up this morning, okay? I always simplify empathy with one word. Come on, man. I hope y'all still can hear me out there. My computer just started acting funny out of nowhere, and I can see myself frozen. Come on, man. Come on. As soon as we're ready to deliver the message, I'm telling you, every time we're ready to deliver a powerful message, the devil be working. All right, we should be back up and running. Can you all see me out there? Everybody that's out there watching live, can you see me? Can you hear me? Give me a one in the chat if you can see me and hear me. We should be up and running. Give me a one if you can see me and hear me. What's up, Ramen? Everybody that's watching on Instagram, on Facebook, come over to YouTube and you can get your comments shown. Like TD here. Thank you for being here, my man. Appreciate you as always. Much love. But we're going to go right into it. Since we have the ones going, everybody can see me, everybody can hear me. This is a God given message that was put on my heart to share to the world, and one that obviously we have to talk about. What I realize is the more I speak on communication, the more I realize we need to speak on communication. Everybody thinks they're good at communicating because they're willing to speak, because they're willing to say what's on their mind. They automatically consider themselves good at communication. Being willing to speak is a part of communication, but communication isn't just verbal. And how you communicate, come on, man, how you communicate speaks volumes. So it's no longer just about communication, right? It's no longer just about whether or not you are willing to speak. Now, once you're willing to speak, now it is about how you speak, what you say, your word choice, your intentions, okay? And if you lack empathy, 9 times out of 10, your message will not get your point, you're not going to get your point across. If you lack empathy, right? The intention, if you are talking to somebody, telling somebody right from wrong just to be right, if you are listening to somebody just to respond, then yes, that communication is not, it's going to be ineffective, because You're talking whoever's talking to you is talking to a brick wall, right? You're not listening. And with you lacking empathy, which we sum it up in one word, empathy equals understanding. Empathy equals understanding. Okay. So if you lack empathy, that means you lack understanding, you lack the willful attempt and effort and understanding. There has been, and I don't really want to use this example, but this is what comes to mind. There has been documentaries and interviews with murderers and killers, right? And how can you successfully have a conversation with, someone who kills people, right? Because the interviewer can show empathy. I forgot what book I read that explained this, but empathy means understanding. It does not mean agreement. Empathy does not mean agreement. I can understand why you would do XYZ. I could understand why you would feel blase, blase. I could understand, the series of events that led up to, but I don't agree with your actions. There are so many different ways that you could handle a situation. There are so many different ways that you could approach a person. There are so many different ways that you could have said what was on your mind instead of coming out and saying, F you, you know, you're a horrible person because, what you're actually trying to say is you could do better here. What you're actually trying to say is that hurt me. You know what I mean? What you're actually trying to say, but you can't say that. So you come out with the anger, and then because it's your point of view, because it's what you see is right, then it's considered the truth. False. It's your truth, not the truth. So going back to empathy, empathy is not catering to people. Simple. Empathy is not catering to people, but empathy is being able, in order to have empathy, you have to learn yourself. You have to acknowledge yourself. You have to realize self. You have to be aware that you've been through things. And in this society, I don't know how, but for some reason, everybody wants to be like, I have no feelings. Bull. Y'all about to make me, I'm on it. Y'all about to make me cuss this morning. I'm trying not to cuss, but it's bull, man. It's BS. The fact that you are human makes you an emotional being. Your instinctual, if you were just animalistic, your instincts is still emotionally driven. When you hear something, it triggers an emotion, and then that triggers a thought, which triggers a reaction or a decision. There's the emotion, the thought, the decision, the action. And every person who usually is offensive with their communication because they lack empathy, every person who is offensive takes the person who is offended as emotional. But when that person responds and the one who was the offensive gets upset, they don't realize they too are being emotional. You're emotional behind this person's emotions. It's all misguided information. Most mishaps stem from miscommunication. And all of this confusion leads to lack of empathy, which leads to lack of willfulness to communicate. Because the person that's willing to say what's on their mind or point out what they believe is the truth, then they are the ones who are holding themselves high to a standard of I'm communicating, not effectively. You might be willful to say what's on your mind, but you're not effectively communicating. Again, what's your intention? Are you just trying to beat this person down? Truth be told, you might be feeling some type of way by whatever this person has done that has caused you to want to say what you consider is the truth. More than likely, they've hurt you in some type of way, so you want to hurt them. But because you disacknowledge feeling. And if you disacknowledge feeling, then you're going to lack empathy. I've said it before, and I haven't said it in a while because this goes over people's head too. Is a strong man is one who can control his emotions, not one who acts as if he doesn't have any. And that, when I say man, I'm talking about mankind. If you disacknowledge your own emotion, you cannot You cannot have empathy for someone else. This is why it's built through self. You have to acknowledge yourself. If you don't acknowledge yourself, if you don't have empathy, you can't have empathy. You can't have understanding of others if you don't understand yourself. If you neglect yourself, right? And this is all under the category of communication. You're not going to be able to effectively communicate. What's up, my guy? Love you, man. Love you. Shout out to the family over on Instagram. If y'all can come over to YouTube, man, so we could put the comments on the screen. Said we do use your lives. They over in Pakistan and over in the Middle East. Shout out to you guys. Thank you for watching. Um, but yes, man. All right. But yes, empathy is empathy is not I think empathy and sympathy gets mixed up. And I got a video within my catalog of the difference between empathy and sympathy. Sympathy is the you can lay on my shoulder, you can cry to me, I feel sorry for you. I wish you never had this problem. I want to take it away from you. Let me jump in, let me put the sympathy is putting you want to put the cape on and you know what I'm saying? The only time that I really see sympathy appropriate is with those uh out of hand, out of control circumstances, and that usually is like in a friend or familial passing, when a friend or family member passes. That's usually when sympathy is uh is used for me. Otherwise, it's empathy. Oh, I lost my job. I feel you. I do. I understand that could be traumatizing, but you can't stop. All right, so what you gonna do from here? You got to get another job, right? You got to do something. You got to do something, right? It's understandable that it hurts. It's understandable, it might be the company had layoffs or, it was unexpected or something. It's understandable, but what is it that you're gonna do? I understand how you may or may not feel, but that doesn't stop nothing, right? You can't just sit here and complain to me about it. Go ahead and start filling out some applications. If not, then you just prolonging your pain, you know? Uh Another thing empathy is not, because we rolling this morning. uh, Raise your hand if you ever watched any TED Talks. I can't remember the guy's name, but I did I think it was a reaction. It was a reaction type video. Again, go through the catalog of the videos I have. Can't remember the guy's name, but one of the things that he spoke on his TED Talk was your help may not be helping. It's we are so quick to jump in and want to just, oh, here's the advice, right? Even if we've been through something, and it's usually from good nature, I want to help, right? And I've done this. I can speak on this because I've been this person, especially in this realm. Is when you when you successfully overcome something, you want someone else to be able to overcome it too. None of us want to be hurting. None of us want to disacknowledge self. The main thing that we want is to be understood, is to have empathy. But that's also the main thing that we're trying not to do for others. It's a conundrum. It's a catch 22 because we don't get it, we feel like we can't give it. But it's because we don't get it that we should give it more so that it'll be circulating more. It's something that we should do more often. It's something that we should carry about us on the forefront instead of, oh, you ain't give it to me, I ain't give it to you. No, we can't be so reactionary. And because that is our nature, that we want to help, that we are willing to communicate, that we do want to give a lending hand, that we do supposed to work together, right? That's human nature. We're supposed to interact. We're not supposed to be independent. We're supposed to be interdependent as a species. Because of that, uh, anytime somebody sees someone else going through what they've been through, they want to be able to give them some type of advice on their situation. Good. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. But your advice is not always the solution. What worked for you may not work for others. So here's what you should do. Out of empathy, ask, ask, did they come to you for advice? Or did you just realize that, hey, this would serve you? If you realize that, then ask them, hey, I've actually been through something similar. From the outside looking in, I've been through something similar. Can I give you some advice on that? Yes. Now you have their attention. Now you have the floor. But just jumping in and butting in and giving advice is not empathy. It's more so ego, right? It's more so ego. Like I said, everything that you like, I know the comments gonna jump, but I've seen where, people are in depressive moments. And I could just tell them, like, okay, well, go outside, get some fresh air, get some sunlight. But when you're the one feeling whatever it is that you're feeling, when you're the one in that depressive moment, you don't want to hear that. You don't want to hear it. It makes you more irritated, which just adds fuel to the fire. Everybody's just telling me, or like it's that simple. Like, oh, go outside and I'm cured. You know, when you're the one feeling it, you don't want to hear it. But if somebody approaches you with empathy, you'll be more willing to listen and go through the process because it's a process. It's not automatic. Like, oh, I went outside today. I'm fixed. It's a process, of absorbing energy and getting sunlight and vitamin D and the process of changing the way you think and your perception and perspective on your situations that has caused you to become depressive. Okay. Hope that doesn't go over somebody else's head. Now, um, another thing I have done through the misconception of empathy is I take I take the spotlight, right? Like, dang, I ain't only just jump in, cut you off, basically took away the validity of your feelings, of your situation, of what you're going through, what you're dealing with to give advice, but then I'm telling my story. It's no longer about you. I took the spotlight. I put the attention on me. So many of us do that so easily because we want to help, right? And we don't realize how good it feels to talk about something until you're talking about something. So when you finally to the point where you're empathetic and you're willing to communicate and you want to help, you're giving advice, right? You felt sorry for someone, don't want to see them going through what you've apparently been through, and you know, now you want them to improve themselves, like you don't have to go through it as much as I did. It's from a good place, but all of these things become misguided, with your empathy. All of these things can get misguided. And then you put the spotlight on yourself. It's no longer about that person. It's just about you and what you went through and what you had to do. And, you know, now it's your situation. And shoot, by the time you finish talking, you forgot what this person was what you talking to this person for. Now that ain't empathy, dog. You know what I'm saying? That was you needing a release. And hey, listen, I speak from experience. I've done it plenty of times. I've done it plenty of times. We already concluded that the biggest issue that people say we all have with communication, the biggest issue with communication is people don't listen. And listening is a learned skill. Listening is a learned skill. It's not just, putting on the front of, uh-huh, oh, mm, okay, yeah. It's not just putting on that front. If you're thinking to yourself how to respond, how to react, how should I feel while this person is, you know, revealing whatever's going on, you're not actively listening. And I don't want to say that as if actively listening is a easy skill. Obviously, it's not if that's the biggest issue we have with communication. But here's the thing, if you lack empathy, you will not be able to listen effectively. If you lack empathy, your communication is going to lack as well. Let's be clear. So, every person I've been talking to about this lack of empathy, the ones who I can deem lacks empathy, are also the ones who are upset and feel like they're in this battlefield with the world that nobody listens. Nobody could take, nobody could take, how I communicate. Everybody should just be able, like, people compare themselves. Like, nobody's able to handle the truth. When I speak the truth, people get offended. It's not the truth that offended the person, it's how you said what you said. Now, granted, I know on the surface that looks like catering to people, but it's not. It's not. If you only have one method of communicating, you can find yourself misunderstood. Everybody don't think like you. So everybody's not going to receive the message like you. And then we speak in English. How many words s- say the same thing or sound the same but mean something different? There. Will. Two. How many words do we have that aren't even synonymous but sound the same? Communication can falter. So it's on us, especially if you're bold enough to be the one to speak. It's on us to improve our communication skills to deliver messages. Now, it's a difference when you got someone who's hell bent on just misunderstanding you. Sometimes you cannot simplify it enough for a person. Sometimes you cannot simplify it enough for a person, and that's okay. Sometimes that person may not be ready to accept that message. That's okay. They may not be able to handle the truth. That's okay. But you do not have to degrade them. You do not have to belittle them. You do not have to demoralize them. You do not have to completely toss them in the trash, toss them wayside because they aren't able to understand. If they are genuinely if they genuinely misunderstand what it is that you're trying to communicate, right? It's okay. But in order for you to dictate that, in order for you to have a firm grasp on it, pause. In order for you to understand that they don't understand, you have to yourself understand that there's things that you don't understand. Come on, man. I know it sounds like I'm talking in circles, but I have been having multiple conversations of this recently. And I just want to clarify it for my people, man. Like, I put a post out like effective communication can flow when you yourself understands that you will not understand everything. When it's a message that you know, when it's something that you want to say, when it's your point of view, your perspective, you feel like you know it completely. So you're confident in speaking about it. And then you get upset when somebody else does not know or interpret your message the way that you delivered it. Example, oh, you're horrible. No, you horrible at such and such. Well, dang, is that true? Okay, a chess master could say I'm horrible at chess, but I just beat a few other people. I can't say I'm horrible at it. So it's not a truth. It could be your truth, right? You might be better at me. That doesn't make you might be better at that at chess than me. That doesn't make me horrible at chess, right? I'm trying to be simplistic with this communication. Like, I think I learned empathy at a young age because everybody, well, everybody, all the adults in my upbringing, men and women, would tell me, put yourself in someone else's shoes. Hmm? Put yourself in someone else's shoes. If you could see what this person is going through, won't you understand why they wanna lash out? You don't have to agree with it. Remember, empathy is understanding, not agreement. But won't you understand why that person is upset? If they have been what they considered disrespect disrespected, how do you feel when you get disrespected? What do you want to do? And we all consider different things disrespectful. So on the forefront, it's like, that wasn't disrespect. But to that person, it was. So when they yelled at the other person who seemingly disrespected them, it was a reaction. It might not have been disrespectful to you, it was disrespectful to them. And now it's a whole argument from this misunderstanding. But I was taught at an early age, man, put yourself in someone else's shoes. You know? What what would you do? How would you feel? We can't get away from it. We can't get around it. How would you feel? You're lying if you try to say, "Oh, I don't have no feelings." I don't care how manly you are. I don't care how adult you are. I don't care how smart you are. You're lying if you try to say you don't have any feelings. When somebody points out that somebody else is being emotional, it's usually like a small category of emotions that they're talking about. Every person, every person who points out somebody else is being emotional, in my experience, in reality, this ain't social media or I looked at a video, they being emotional. Every person in reality that pointed out somebody else is being emotional were those who lacked emotional intelligence. I can't even take that at face value because you don't know what you're talking about. You don't realize that yourself are reacting emotionally. It's just a different emotion. And usually, you know, frustration, irritation, anger, those are accepted emotions on the face of things. You got frustrated. "Well, I can't even talk to that person. They being emotional." You're frustrated. You're being emotional. Somebody else caused you to be quiet. That's an emotional reaction. Oh man. Let's see. I actually looked up I've been doing this a lot lately. I actually looked up the definition of empathy, okay? The actual definition of empathy is dun, 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 the power of understanding. It's powerful. It's powerful. It is powerful. It is one of the most powerful tools you can ever put in your arsenal and continuously to improve and build and get stronger and stronger. Empathy is strength. Empathy is strength. Look at the best negotiators. Matter of fact, it's a book, Never Split the Difference. Look up that book. If you read that book, it's explaining negotiation. The topic is negotiation. Everything in life can be negotiated. Everything. And this is a FBI, I think he was FBI negotiator. He had to negotiate with terrorists. There is no win-win, right? You have to win. You can't be like, okay, you can have some hostages, just release some of the others, right? That's not a win-win situation. I need to get everybody to safety. That's the goal. And he was one of the best at it. Wrote a book about it. And guess what? Has empathy. Most people in heated situations, you got hostages, you got somebody, just imagine that. Negotiator on this side of the door, you know, criminal on this side of the door. You got a gun, you got hostages and everything. And this person is negotiating. He can't be like, "Oh, you just being emotional." You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, kill everybody. No, but with empathy, he was able to negotiate and de-escalate that situation over and over. Like he became the best at it over and over. Being able to ask questions that actually meant something, that actually led to something. You know, keeping the intention at the forefront. The intention is good. Empathy, dog, is powerful. And when we learn empathy, when we learn how powerful empathy is, and we genuine about it, right? When we realize that empathy equals understanding, it's the power of understanding, then it's something that we would want to continue to use. I don't think you used it effectively if you're running away from it. And last thing, I see those who are misunderstood are the the same ones that lack empathy, and it's not because they can't. It's not that anyone can't see someone else's point of view. It's that they shut it down because they think that it's wrong. They think that uh they've they've ingested enough of those lies that society has put in our faces to tell people that you should be independent, you should be frightful of one another, we should, that we shouldn't talk to one another, don't trust nobody, right? Don't feel nothing. Put your head down and work at all times. That's all that matters. You're nothing if you're not, like those repeated messages, those repeated lies has caused you to be in a box. And you cannot lie to me, right? Because I've been there. I've been there, done that. Having empathy does not make you soft. It does not make you weak. It does not make you feminine. It's actually a quite masculine thing, but it makes you human. It makes you human. And you'll be able to negotiate. You'll be able to communicate more effectively. You'll be a better leader. Hello? You'll become a leader with empathy. Um, you'll be a better leader. Uh, this powerful tool can make you more money because it's the main thing that works in negotiation. Because, like I said, everybody yearns to be understood. So if it's a negotiation, a debate, a battle, you're trying to get this contract signed. This person knows their value. They're not going to give over their value to any and everybody. That's the reason why you're talking to them, negotiating with them. Show them that you understand their value and what you're presenting to them is of value to them. That's your that's your means for negotiation. I want to show you that this will add value to you. Sign here. Say less. Right? With empathy, you become more powerful. With empathy, you become more freeing. Right? And if we had more empathy in the world, simply put, if we had more understanding, then we would have less of the what we consider chaos. We would have less everybody who's misunderstood or misunderstands information. Most mishaps stem from miscommunication. So with all of this misunderstanding, with all of this confusion, people are spiraling and acting out of character. So if we did our part of having empathy, putting more understanding out there, that would calm the chaos, right? Going back to that never split the difference, the negotiation. I can understand what led you to pick up the gun, but before you shoot, you know what I mean? Let's talk. And you actually can put the gun down now because somebody understands you. That's what happens in all of those. You read that book. That's what happens in all of those situations, those high intensity situations. Once they feel understood, once you get to the root of the real issue, not just the surface level, you know what I mean? Then we could change the situation at hand for the better. And of course, this goes back to self. If you lack empathy outwardly, I cannot see where you would have it inwardly. If you are boastful that you've done the work on yourself, I can tell, as one who has done a lot of work, I can tell that you still have a lot of work to do. We all do. I do. I'm constantly doing the work. This morning was a struggle. This morning was a struggle. There are 3 areas in my life that I constantly have battles with, right? And this morning was a struggle. I woke up with it on my mind. I had to pray and I had to have empathy and understanding like, yo, it's all right that I had this struggle. It's only going to build me if I allow it to, but it could also destroy me if I allow it to. If I don't have empathy for myself, then ultimately it will destroy me. You don't have no other choice but to. I can't overcome myself by beating myself down, right? I can't pick myself up by beating myself down. It's not going to work. And then I'll get mad at myself even more. Hello. downward spiral, depressive moment. We make those easy connections and make it sound simple, and it can be, uh, but it's not easy. But I ended on that. Let's have more empathy in the world, okay? Please, people, let's learn more about empathy and practice it more. It's simply the power of understanding. Try to understand. Try to understand before you judge. Try to listen before you respond. Hmm? And we'll talk more about each one of those. Thank you all for being here. We're going to have a wonderful week. We're starting off the week strong, Mindset Monday. I challenge you to go through this week with empathy at the forefront. Try to understand yourself, your situations, and others. If somebody come at you, you know, just keeping that empathy up front. Like, you can start asking questions like, what does that do for you? Like you know, what does that do for you? What is this like for you? What are you actually trying to say here? What do you mean? You might have to find another question than what do you mean? Because that's a trigger question for a lot of people. But yeah, man, just keep empathy at the forefront, man. Thank you all for being here. It's AIM, always improving the man, Tresvon Pratt. Much love. Peace.